Ross, you haven't made a video in a month. Sorry. I've done this because I'm doing the theatre tag, so if you're doing the theatre tag, face paint and wigs. Just makes sense, doesn't it? I tend to talk a lot when I'm doing tags, so let's just get right into it. Question number 1, when did you start getting into theatre? Now, I feel like every other person that makes videos on YouTube says this. I was a shy child, I wasn't confident, I didn't like talking to people, and I'm still a bit like that now, but I have come out of my shell, obviously. So, because I was this shy, introverted, mumbling 4-year-old, my mother put me into a drama school. It wasn't really a drama school, it was this woman called Helen O'Grady who had this business called Helen O'Grady Drama School or something, and she would come into my town on a Wednesday, so I'd go and I'd improve my speech and my acting and everything. That's when I first got into theatre, I suppose. Question number 2, how many shows have you been in? Was that a knock? Or was it the wind? Or was it a ghost? I worked out I've been in like 12 shows I think, and that's actually not that many. For an 18-year-old who supposedly likes theatre, that's actually not that many shows. Question number 3, what's your favourite role you've ever played? I've played the fool in Terry Pratchett's Weird Sisters, and I didn't realise until I was in the show that it was like the perfect role for me, because I like doing physical stuff and comedy, and I like playing human characters that have unhuman qualities, if you get what I mean. Like, they're not like a normal straight-talking human, they're a bit over the top. I like playing them characters, and that's what the fool was like in Weird Sisters. Question number 4, what is a tip that you always give to new theatre kids? I don't think I've ever actually had to give a tip to a new theatre person. Something I do see a lot, maybe like lower down in the school that I go to, is people turning the back on the audience. Now, I don't want to sound big-headed or something, but turning your back on the audience is just something that I've always known not to do. Like, even before I was told not to do it, it just seemed engraved in my brain, you don't turn your back on the audience. Question number 5, what is your biggest theatre pet peeve? I'd say my biggest pet peeve is when people say, don't worry, you can't see the audience when the lights are on. Yes, you can. You can see everyone. Number 6, what's your biggest strength and your biggest weakness in theatre? My biggest strength is probably taking direction. I'm always open to direction. I'm never going to be like, no, I'm not doing it like that, I want to do it like this. Because chances are, if they're directing the play, they probably know how it should be going, so you listen to them. My biggest weakness in theatre would be singing, because theatre nowadays is singing, dancing and acting. So if I had to rank them for me, it would be acting, dancing, singing. Number 7, who's your biggest inspiration in theatre? This is a hard question because it's sort of anybody who's on stage. If I did have to choose one person, I'd probably say Rachel Tucker, because firstly, she's my bae. Secondly, she's currently playing Elphaba on Broadway in Wicked, and she literally asked to play the role. She texted the director asking to be in one of the biggest shows on Broadway. Who does that? Number 8, what's your dream role? I'm sure I've said this in a video before, my dream role is Boq in Wicked, because he's more of an acting role than a singing role, even though it's a musical. He does have singing parts, but I know that I can sing them parts because they're not too hard. Even though I've never had dance training or singing training, I believe that I do have a shot of playing Boq. Number 9, plays or musicals? Musicals, everyday musicals. Number 10, what's your favourite improv game? I don't like improv, I hate it, so I can't really have a favourite improv game if I don't like improving. Question 11, what's your favourite show? My favourite show is and always will be Wicked. It's because of the whole show, but mainly because of the orchestra at the end of Defying Gravity. Listen to this. Same. Number 12, what's your most awkward on stage moment? I'll have to think about this one. The most recent time I was on stage was in my town's pantomime, and when it's the last show of a pantomime, people are known to mess about and play tricks on each other, and I was part of a comedy duo, and in the plot we'd just been frozen, so we decided to freeze, holding hands, me with my leg up like that, can't see it, him about to kiss me on the cheek, so that when we got unfrozen, we fell into each other and he kissed me on the cheek, so of course the audience laughed at that, but what we didn't take into consideration was that his next line was, "Ooh, I feel all awkward and stiff." So that's probably the most awkward on stage moment. Number 13, what's your best offstage moment? In the play that I did for my drama exam, I spent a lot of time off stage by myself, but towards the end of the play, my wife would come off and we'd sit next to each other, but it wasn't really off stage, it was us, then the set, than the audience, so we had to be like perfectly quiet. But that's hard to do when there was someone in the audience that had a particularly funny laugh, which made us then start to cry with laughter. But it was that laughter where if you don't control it, then it'll just bubble over the top and you'd let it out. I managed to stay in control of myself. Sarah didn't, she ended up laughing out loud, but immediately stopped herself. But we were pretty sure that the audience probably heard us. Question number 14, what was the most challenging role you've had to play? I did an abridged version of A Doll's House and I was playing Torvald, and he's like a typical man, like women shouldn't have rights and stuff, so a lot of the time I had to be stood like that with my chest out. And for me, a person who'd rather play the fool in Weird Sisters because it's all physical and stuff, and I'd rather do stuff like that on stage rather than... Then it was pretty challenging for me to play, mainly because I had to shout at one of my friends and grab her chin like that. So because we both found that funny, we couldn't look at each other, so I'd always look up there and she'd look down there. So instead of doing this, "You must never speak to Krogstad again!" If she'd have looked at me, she'd have seen me doing this. "You must never speak to Krogstad again!" And finally, question number 15, what would you do if theatre didn't exist? Just be on TV or in a movie. Yeah? Right. Thanks for watching this video. If you haven't seen me before but you like what you saw, then click subscribe and come back next week for more.